The auditorium buzzed with excitement, but for 12-year-old Imani, it felt more like a den of wolves. She clutched the worn strap of her hand-me-down guitar, her knuckles white. Backstage, the air was thick with the scent of hairspray and nervous energy. Whispers followed her like a shadow. Look at her dress. Did she get it from a thrift store? A girl in a sequined leotard sneered. She probably can't even play that old thing, another chimed in, pointing at Imani's guitar. The laughter stung more than any scraped knee ever had. Imani's heart hammered against her ribs. Maybe they were right. Maybe she didn't belong here. Her family was in the audience, somewhere in the back. They'd saved 4 weeks just to afford the tickets, sacrificing little things, all for her. Her grandma had stayed up all night patching the small tear in her simple cotton dress, telling her, "Honey, it's not the dress that shines. It's the heart of the person wearing it." Imani took a deep, shaky breath, the memory of her grandma's warm hands on her shoulders. A small comfort. She wasn't just doing this for herself. She was doing this for them. The host called her name. Next up, we have Imani Washington. The applause was polite, sparse. As she walked toward the single spotlight on the vast stage, the whispers from the other contestants seemed to grow louder, echoing in her ears. She felt 1,000 pairs of eyes on her, judging her worn-out shoes, her simple dress, her trembling hands. She avoided looking at the judges' table, where 3 stone-faced figures sat, with their pens poised over their notepads. One of them, a famous music producer named Mr. Harrison, was known for his brutally honest critiques. He looked particularly unimpressed, tapping his pen impatiently. Imani sat on the lone stool in the center of the stage. The silence was deafening. She closed her eyes for a second, picturing her living room, her grandpa's foot tapping along as she practiced, her mom humming with the melody. That was her safe place. This stage, under these harsh lights, felt like the opposite. Her fingers felt clumsy and cold as she positioned them on the fretboard. She could feel the doubt creeping back in, a cold wave threatening to pull her under. What if she forgot the words? What if her voice cracked? What if they all laughed at her? She took one last, shuddering breath and opened her eyes, looking out past the blinding lights into the darkness where she knew her family was watching. This was Italiano. Her fingers found the first chord, a soft, tentative note that hung in the air. The murmuring in the audience quieted slightly. She played another chord, and then another, a simple, haunting melody that she had written herself. It was a song about a little bird with a broken wing, afraid to fly but dreaming of the sky. Then she began to sing. Her voice, at first a mere whisper, was pure and clear. It trembled with a vulnerability that hushed the entire auditorium. It wasn't a powerhouse voice like the girl who had belted out a pop song before her. It was something else entirely. It was raw, honest, and filled with a longing that seemed too deep for it. The lyrics poured out of her, telling a story of struggle, of hope, of feeling small in a world that seemed too big. The whispers stopped. The fidgeting ceased. Every single person in that room was captivated. The girls who had mocked her backstage now stood in the wings, their jaws slack. The audience leaned forward in their seats, completely drawn in. On the judges' panel, the woman who had been doodling on her notepad had put her pen down. The other judge had taken off his glasses and was rubbing his eyes, and Mr. Harrison, the notoriously tough producer, was no longer tapping his pen. He was leaning forward, his gaze fixed on Imani, his expression unreadable but intensely focused. As Imani's song reached its crescendo, her voice soared. It filled every corner of the vast hall, no longer timid, but filled with a strength and passion that defied her small frame. She wasn't just singing about a little bird anymore. She was singing about herself. She was singing for every kid who had ever been told they weren't good enough, for every person who had ever felt invisible. The notes flowed from her guitar, her fingers now moving with a confidence that seemed impossible just moments before. The old, worn instrument in her hands sang with a richness that no shiny new guitar could ever match. It was an extension of her soul. When the final note faded into silence, you could have heard a pin drop. The entire auditorium was suspended in a moment of shared awe. Imani opened her eyes, her chest heaving, the last of the melody still echoing in her heart. She looked at the silent crowd, her own heart pounding with a new kind of fear. Did they hate it? Then, A single person in the back started to clap. It was her dad. Standing up, his face beaming with pride. Then her mom joined in, and her grandma, and then, like a tidal wave, the applause erupted. The entire audience was on its feet. The sound a deafening roar of approval, of admiration, of pure joy. People were cheering, whistling, some even wiping tears from their eyes. The sound washed over Imani, a warm, unbelievable wave of acceptance. She looked at the judges' table. All three of them were standing. Mr. Harrison was clapping the loudest, a slow, deliberate applause. He wasn't smiling, but there was a look of profound respect in his eyes. He picked up his microphone. The crowd quieted down, eager to hear what the toughest judge of all had to say. "Imani," he began, his voice raspy with emotion. "In all my years in this business, I have rarely seen that." He paused, searching for the right words. "That wasn't just a performance. That was a story. You have a gift, young lady. Not just a voice, but the heart of a true artist. You didn't just sing a song. You made every single person in this room feel something. And that is true talent." The applause exploded once more, even louder than before. Imani felt tears welling up in her eyes, but this time, they weren't tears of fear or sadness. They were tears of joy, of relief, of a dream she was afraid to have, suddenly coming true right before her eyes. The girls who had mocked her were now looking at her with a mixture of shock and envy. In that moment, on that stage, under that single spotlight, she wasn't the poor girl with the hand-me-down dress anymore. She was an artist. She was a star, and she was just getting started.